How's it going, everybody? This is Rob of Novakast, back with some more of content for you guys. And I just watched It Chapter 2, and holy crap. I'm going to say I really like this movie. I thought this was a great conclusion to what they started with the remake. And overall, there was a few things I would say I had issues with, or at least one thing. Sorry, one particular thing, and that's mostly because I watch a lot of horror films. But all in all, this was a really great experience with this whole movie. The actors picked, did really well with their roles, and I would say the final conclusion was it was interesting to say the least. And I'm going to say, with this particular video, I'm also going to be doing a spoiler section. So I ask you guys to please, if you guys want to watch the spoiler section or have already watched it, then stay for the end of the video. But for now, with this particular movie, I don't know how to put it. I know I kind of use this as a reference a lot for movies or horror movies, just in general. I always reference H.P. Lovecraft. And one thing that really kind of hurts it for me when it comes to a lot of horror films is when they try to explain away the creature or the villain or whatever. But in my personal opinion, whenever you create a villain, you don't always know all the answers, if that makes any sense. There's a point where in this film they do try to do that, where they try to give him an origin, but all in all, you don't fully know what he really looks like, what Pennywise is in general, which is really great. There were some really great scenes in this particular movie, which I'll go into spoilers after I'm talking about it and gushing over it. And a few things that honestly, and I'm gonna say, because I watched the TV movie, from the 80s with Tim Curry, which, by the way, I'm going to say on record, and I think I've said this once or twice, Tim Curry is not scary. I don't know why people say he's scary, but all in all, Tim Curry was a riot back in the day when he played as Pennywise. With this particular version, they actually end up making him more frightening, or at least attempt to, which was really great. Some of the illusions were really awesome, which I'll go, again, spoilers for that. And character changes. Character changes in this movie are, honestly, I really approve of it. I really, really approve of it. But just the basic thing with this film is it gave a great conclusion to this entire reboot. And I would say a great conclusion doesn't, come free. There were people that end up, dying in this movie. Not in real life. I'm talking about the characters. But I think for those who watched the original TV movie or read the books, they know who I'm talking about. I will say I have one complaint, and not to go too much into it, and this is because I watch a lot of horror films. There was a lot of times in the film And believe me when I say this, I love this film. I hate to shit on it for something, but I have to say it. The jump scares were very, how should I put this? They were very telegraphed. Or at the very least, for those people who watch like horror films, they know when it's going to happen. And honestly, because at times they kind of do this whole thing where they take a second, like a few seconds for the jump scare to actually happen. They pull the same trick multiple times. You're like already prepared for the jump scare. And it kind of kills the whole, like, you know, tension in it. So all in all, with that being my only gripe, this was a really, really, really interesting film, and I really loved it. And honestly, it sucks that it had to end, but it honestly, it did. It had to end because it was, you know, based off a book that was made into a TV movie and then reboot for current audiences. Actually, and I'm going to talk about my theater experience too, because this was fucking hilarious. So I think now what I'm going to do is switch to the spoiler section now. And for those who have not seen the movie, I ask you guys to please go watch it, because it is a good film. 10 out of 10. Actually, I think 9, because I mentioned the whole jump scare thing. But yeah, 9 out of 10. Okay. Actually, no. You know what? Even with that, it's a minor gripe. I mean, and like I said, for those who are not usually watching scary movies, you know, they're gonna get a scare, and they're gonna jump. I mean, I will say there was like a couple of times where I did jump. So, and it did catch me off guard, because I was looking forward to, I would like, whenever I saw like a moment where it's like, okay, yeah, this is a jump scare, they would kind of do that, but then seconds later pull a fast one on me. So I thought that was really great. So 10 out of 10 for me. Alright, so now that I've said that, why don't we go ahead and get to the spoiler section. So, how should I start this off? Oh my gosh. Well, to start off, and I think Mike in the movie says it best, is things have changed now when it comes to Pennywise. Apparently, with them defeating Pennywise, his tactics have become something different. And what do I mean by that? For those who have seen the movie, they know that at the beginning you have a couple of gay characters. You have two men that are in a relationship, and you have a bunch of bullies that beat the crap out of both of them, and one of them gets thrown into, or at least over a bridge, and he becomes the victim of Pennywise. And this kind of sets off the whole thing where Mike ends up contacting every single one of the Losers Clubs. Or members. Sorry, Loser Club members. And, oh my gosh, I'm going to say this, and I like the fact that they just, like, rushed right through it. It's like, we know our characters, we're just going to go through this very quickly to get them all to Derry. I like that they did that. Instead of doing the flashbacks like the mini-series movie did, they just went straight to it. Contact the friends. You need to get over here. There's a killer clown. He's back. We need to fucking kill him. And kind of like the book and kind of like the miniseries, they don't remember at all. And actually, I was watching a video, and they were talking about how memory is supposedly the key. Whereas, like, or at least the main theme. The main theme for the last movie was fear. You know, the characters, or our characters, overcoming their fears to defeat Pennywise. In here, they don't remember ever doing that. So, at this point, it's up to them to regain their memories and remember that bravery that they once had to fight the clown. And, oh my gosh. By the way, I'm going to say this kind of rushing ahead a little bit. I already called it when it came to 2 of the characters dying. Or at least 2 of the members of the Losers Club. And I'm going to say, when it comes to both their deaths, they did a little bit more, okay, with them. And I like that. I really do like that. And I will go into detail on that for a second. Or in a little bit. But after everybody is called, they go to the Chinese restaurant. And oh my gosh, that was... like, when everything starts getting weird, it was freaking crazy. Actually, the Chinese restaurant scene was right after Stan kills himself. And before, you know, the monsters and the fortune cookies, there was a really, like, kind of crazy moment where every single one of the members of the Loser Club get a fortune cookie, and each one has a word for a sentence. And when they put it all together, it said something along the lines of, guess Stan could not cut it. And afterwards, they start seeing the really crazy, like, horrific shit, like this freaking fly crab baby thing pop out of a cookie. Then you had an eyeball pop out of a cookie. Then a bat wing. I think that was in the original. And as everything's going around, you had like that black tar thing or stuff that was coming out of the centerpiece of the table. Kind of like the loogie acid that was in the first movie. And then as everything's going around, they had like this huge fish tank behind them, and then the fish tank is like freaking like disfigured or mutilated heads that are singing this this Asian themed music, which is really nice. It was a really creepy moment. And this whole thing ends with, you know, Mike bashing the table with a chair. Afterwards, all the characters are kind of like, oh, we don't want to deal with this. We don't want to, you know, we're done. We want to run away. And this was really weird to me. Because they mentioned that, like, one of the biggest things is apparently, as my phone goes off, that Mike, that Mike lied to them. I'm sorry, but where the fuck did he lie? I mean, for the brief moment where they remember Pennywise, they all knew that if they were, they promised that if he came back, they were going to kill him. I don't know why any of them assumed he lied. I mean, he lies later on, but with this particular moment, they all should have known what was going on, especially remembering the clown. They promised to go back and kill him. So why is Mike a liar? And if somebody who has watched the movie, please help me understand, because I don't see why or how Mike lied. He called them all there, and when they started to remember, they should have realized why they were back. Not for a reunion, as they probably assumed, but the fact that they were coming to kill the fucking clown. So after this, everybody is like, you know what, we're done. We're running away. Mike, through a drug trip, convinces Bill of the origin of Pennywise, which honestly was a really cool, like, segment to see. And they mentioned that it's through drug trip and a Native American artifact. He's able to kind of tell the origin of Pennywise, that he crashed to Earth, and that he took many forms to trick people to consume them. And he mentions the ritual that people are supposedly used to try to defeat Pennywise. Now, I'm going to say right off the bat, because he mentions they used it to kill Pennywise. I'm using quotes. Kill Pennywise. And right off the bat, I'm like, okay, this shit didn't work if he's, still around. Which I found out to be, correct on that. So, after convincing the rest of the group, Mike mentions that they all need to sacrifice a token or a artifact. An object that is, a part of their memory. So each of them goes into town to collect something that was part of their memory. Pennywise literally gives Bill his artifact, which is Georgie's balloon. And we find out more of what happened when it comes to Georgie's death, which is honestly really sad. But it brings up the fact that it's still not his fault for what happened to his brother. Which, spoiler alert, we're on the spoiler section already. Bill pretended to be sick. He didn't want to go outside to play in the rain, and that's why Georgie was alone and got killed by Pennywise. In fact, there's a moment when he's having a flashback, and he is, near the sewer where Pennywise took his brother as a kid, and he's like, why'd you take Georgie? Why did you do this? And I love the moment where he's like, I know you can hear me. And as he's about to leave, Pennywise freaking taunts him about why he killed his brother. In fact, this was kind of crazy. And again, it was one of those moments where you kind of know that something's up. As adult Bill is walking away from the sewer drain, he hears Georgie's voice and he sees Georgie's arms holding the balloon. Or not the balloon, the boat. And what ends up happening is adult Bill grabs his, tries to reach for the boat or reach for Georgie's hands, and this arm grabs him, and it's like a million freaking arms are forming out of the one arm. It was freaking crazy to see. And it looked like it was trying to pull him into the sewer. Then we had Beth's moment, and oh my gosh. This scene was so freaking crazy with Miss Kirsch, where apparently when the door opens, it's the actor who plays Pennywise voicing the old lady for a brief second, and when she becomes the monster. First of all, they did some serious audio editing for switched the voices around for the trailer, because when she does are you still daddy's little girl? Are you? It's it sounds more monstrous, and it was holy shit. And her final form when she comes out of the darkness, I'm like, what the fuck? And for a brief moment, she sees Pennywise as a human being, a regular human being, which I heard there was a theory, or I think in the book, that Pennywise, or at least the form that Pennywise took, was from a human being originally, but he killed the human as well as killed the daughter, which, man, that's crazy. Going further, we have Eddie, who has a brief moment with Pennywise where he finds out that his artifact is an inhaler. Oh, and Bev's, when she goes into her old home, I think I said another name, but when she goes into her old home with the old lady, that was, it was the poem that Ben made. Eddie, his artifact was the inhaler, and he has a moment with Pennywise, or two moments, where he has a flashback of supposedly going into the basement, and Pennywise briefly makes an illusion where he goes after his mother. Well, actually, it's a very unclear what happened to his mother. In the movie, they mentioned that she dies from cancer or something, but I wouldn't be surprised, like, if he didn't remember, and what happened to his mom is literally what happened. Where you have the leper come and kill her, and after he's done with his flashback, the Pennywise, as the leper, comes back, and he's, like, literally choking him out. And there's a point where it seems like he's literally killing the clown. And as he's about, it seems like he's about to die, he starts vomiting out this black goo. And it starts playing that song from, oh my gosh, you know, Just Call Me Angel, yeah, that song. And I thought that was really weird that they did that. It was hilarious, but at the same time, it was really weird and unexpected to have that playing in the background. When we go to Richie, his artifact was apparently a token from the arcade, and he remembers. Actually, we get a little bit more on Richie, and it's implied, like, heavily that he might actually also be or like men. And what sucks is the way that kind of Pennywise messes with him and his insecurities is by making fun of him for his quote-unquote secret that he likes, you know, other men. Which, I'm gonna say that's very sad, okay? Like, for me, I'm usually about, you know, you do you. If you find love, then you know what? Go for it. I am not one to judge. I am somebody who doesn't want to judge, usually. But all in all, it was sad. It was very sad. But I will say the flashback was fucking insane. Especially with the moment where you have the Paul Bunyan freaking statue or wooden statue come to life. The wood splitting into, like, this very, like, jagged freaking, like, maw of a monster. And when he goes back to being adult Richie. Okay, something I'm gonna say a very subtle touch is in the background. You have a bunch of people, like, cheering for Derry, and a bunch of, like, random strangers. And when Pennywise pops up and starts taunting him, you have them, like, all, like, they stop, like, they freeze right there, and then they proceed to, like, move the same way that Pennywise is moving. It was freaking insane. And I will say that it's great to have, like, those kind of touches, you know. Apparently for Ben, it wasn't too hard to find his, because he has actually kept it in his wallet for almost his entire life. And that was the torn out page of his yearbook, the one that Beverly signed in the first movie. And he's kind of kept that as a memento as he continued doing his work, which, wow. Like, they bring up the fact that he's an architect, and damn, he, like, some of the stuff that they showed that he was working on was really cool. In fact, the house he lives in is, like, this freaking, like, actually kind of reminded me of the house that Ben Affleck's Batman was in for either it was Batman vs Superman or Justice League, I can't remember, the one that was, like, just next to the lake. But he also has his own flashbacks where he has a moment with Beverly, and apparently it's not Beverly, it was Pennywise with a flaming skull chasing after him. And holy crap, that was... And I think she also moved, kind of like the kid that was headless that tried to chase him at some point. Stan's memento, since he wasn't there because he just recently passed was actually shower caps that they used in their clubhouse that apparently they built in between the movie, and we didn't get to see this clubhouse in the first film. But yeah, it was a shower cap, and Mike's memento was the rock from the Rock War that they had between Bowers and his, Goonies. Or Goons, sorry. Oh, speaking of Bowers, oh my gosh. We thought he was a crazed lunatic in the first film. As an adult, his whole personality does not get any better. I mean, they show a quick flashback of him surviving his fall inside the sewer. And apparently, with him, being in the sewer, I'm assuming the clown got him. But all in all, he is fucking deranged. I mean, when he gets back to his home, cops are already there collecting his father's body. And they end up arresting him. And the entire time he's been away, he's been in a mental institute. Which, in the mental institute, and I will say this is another moment where they kind of choreograph the jump scare. He sees this balloon outside and he's trying to follow it as he's being taken away, or the balloon's following him. And when he gets to his room, the balloon is under his bed, and when he pops it, because he's trying to pull it out, it's one of his buddies that died. But we all know it's Pennywise, and Pennywise ends up giving him the knife that he once used to try to kill them, and proceeds to go and try to take revenge on the Losers Club. Which, okay, he gets a good shot on freaking Eddie. Poor Eddie, he's trying to get his shit together. And when he moves the mirror, they did that whole that whole thing where you move the mirror and the dude's right behind them. He turns around and he gets a freaking knife to the mouth, into the cheek. And trying not to talk too much because one, it probably hurts, and two, he has a knife in his mouth. He is quickly kind of tries to pull a fast one on Bowers, going behind a curtain as the dude's about to try to kill him, takes the knife, pulls it out of his mouth, and stabs him in the chest. Doesn't kill him, by the way. He ends up getting a tomahawk to the back of the skull before he dies. But another thing that really sucks too, is they kind of push more on that whole thing about Billy or Bill feeling ashamed about what happened to his brother, and at some point the Losers Club meets this little boy who at first Richie thinks it's Pennywise because he says the fun is just beginning. And he thinks that that's Pennywise, but it turns out it's a line from his own show. And I thought it was really funny. They have this little exchange where he's like, "You don't remember one of the lines from your show?" And he goes, "I don't write my own material." And Eddie's like, "I fucking knew it!" It was great. I fucking love that scene. But this boy comes back. He sees Bill at the moment where he was near the sewer drain, and he's hysterical because the kid mentions that he's been hearing voices of little children and also a clown. He hysterically tells the kid, "Don't go near any sewers. Whatever you do, don't go near any sewers, and whatever you do, try to get your parents to get you out of Derry." The kid's like, "I gotta go to the festival." And he gets killed in the festival, and Bill is forced to watch. In fact, you guys have kind of seen the scene where he's in the funhouse. That's where the kid dies. It's a horrific scene, and he feels guilty, so he first tries to go alone to fight the clown, but that doesn't work. In fact, when they get to the house, oh my gosh, this was so freaking crazy. They get separated briefly. Ben ends up feeling a sharp pain, and when they look, they find out that somebody's carving something on his freaking stomach. And they look in a mirror, and it's Pennywise carving, home at last. And he's about to cut Ben's throat, but Beverly grabs the knife, or grabs I'm assuming it's a coal poker or a piece of fence, and she proceeds to smash the mirror. At the same time that's happening, Richie, Eddie, and Bill are kind of like in a scene of The Thing. If you guys remember the refrigerator from the first film, that comes back. And when it opens up, it's Stan's body, like, folded up, and his head comes out and proceeds to, like, grow, like, spider or insect limbs and starts trying to attack everybody. And the funniest line, I thought this was great, and it was a great reference to The Thing, where Richie looks at it and he goes, "You gotta be fucking kidding." Exactly like the line and the moment that happened in The Thing. It was really great. But they fight that off, and afterwards they go into deeper, where they fought the clown, and then proceed to go further, where Pennywise crash landed. And at first, everything seems like it's going all right. They start the ritual. They sacrifice their mementos for the ritual. And what ends up happening is they find out, big shocker, it didn't work. Not only that, but Pennywise is now like 10 to 15 feet tall. Is a mixture between the clown and the spider, and they're now in his domain. And it turns out, I will say that this is the moment where Mike actually lied. As far as I saw, actually lied to the group. Because apparently on the artifact, it shows more of what happened with the ritual and the origin of Pennywise. That apparently with this particular ritual, yes, there was a group of Native Americans that came together to try to battle Pennywise, but it didn't work. Not only didn't work, but they also got killed. And what ends up happening is, at first they all get separated. Actually, no. The only two that don't get separated are Eddie and Richie. Which, there's a great moment with them where the three doors come back. Not scary, scary, or very scary. And they're all like, okay, wait. And I love the fact that with this version, or this time, Richie's like, no, wait. Don't go with not scary. Or don't go with not scary, because it's actually really scary. And so they open the scary door, and all of a sudden you hear the I lost my shoes. All of a sudden you see like a pair of freaking legs or lower torso running after them. So they close the door and, like, you know what, maybe he's fucking with us. Maybe it was not very scary or not scary. So they open the door, and there was a moment where they're talking about how he wanted to fight a Pomeranian, and sure enough, behind the door is a Pomeranian, and Richie's like, "Oh, I know you. Yeah, I know how this is gonna go." And I'm gonna say, I love moments in movies where they acknowledge the fact that something is fucking wrong. I love that. I love that about this movie. Is they see the Pomeranian, and they're like, "Wait a minute, we were talking about Pomeranian a second ago. Fuck no. You're gonna jump scare me." He's like, "I know what you are, bitch. I know exactly what you are." And at first they're like thinking, "Oh, it's so cute," because they get this in. All of a sudden, it like grows like 6 feet, and is nothing but a freaking like a disfigured skeleton with rotting flesh all around it, and it chases them down this cavern tunnel from whence they came. Now there's a moment where I don't know how to explain what happened. I will say for like some of the characters, because Mike ends up getting trapped in the main like dungeon area of Pennywise's lair, and Ben is in an illusion where he is being inside the clubhouse, where all the foundation is broken apart, and he starts being buried under the dirt, and Beverly ends up drowning in blood. And the way they get out of this whole situation is they confess their love to each other. Now, the craziest thing is I heard a few things, or a few people complaining that their whole romance came out of nowhere. I feel like it was like subtly, or I don't know if you would say subtly, but it was they were trying to kind of slowly build on that, kind of put on that delusion that, oh, it might be Bill that she's hooking up with, but no, it's actually Ben, which honestly was great. And this moment where they finally come together was just perfect. It really was. Bill ends up having to really relive the moment where he had to confront Georgie in the basement. In fact, they kind of pull a twist where they mention the fact that, yeah, Bill pretended to be sick, so Georgie went by himself, and that's how he got killed. And for a moment, Pennywise as Bill, or Kid Bill, is talking about how it's his fault, takes the cattle prod and proceeds is about to shoot him in the face. But as adult Bill realizes it's not his fault, it wasn't his fault to begin with, it doesn't work. But he takes the cattle prod to young Bill, who is Pennywise, and it works. And he's pulled out of this delusion. Now, the very end and how they realized how to defeat Pennywise was actually really great. Because at first, they were going to try to figure out a way to kind of shrink him down to kill him. Which their original idea was go into small caverns, which that doesn't end up working. And due to Richie, after throwing a bunch of rocks, calling Pennywise a bitch, gets caught in the deadlights. Eddie, who at the moment is holding the piece of fence, or because I think it's a poker, believes in the fact that the object he's holding is going to kill the monster. So he tosses it, and it lands directly in Pennywise's mouth, where the deadlights are. And that works. Briefly, Pennywise is incapacitated as he's freaking speared by the jagged rocks that are all around them. And what ends up happening is he goes to see to Richie, and he ends up getting stabbed through the chest. with one of Pennywise's limbs. And when everybody goes to check on Eddie, he brings up the fact that he almost killed Pennywise as the leper. That apparently, when Pennywise tried to attack him as an adult in the leper form, he was choking him out, and it was almost like Pennywise was giving up, that he couldn't handle Ed, being brave and kind of taking him on. And they begin to realize that if Pennywise can make us believe in something, why can't we make Pennywise believe in something that we say or do? So sure enough, near the very end, they end up calling him names. Like a clown, a freaking pathetic mummy. All these names that literally started making him smaller or feeling smaller. Till sure enough, he was this tiny little baby that they were able to quickly dispatch by taking its heart, ripping it out, and killing it. And oh my gosh, I'm gonna say this was a crazy moment too. I mean, it was brief, but it was a crazy moment where everything around them starts crumbling, or at the very least, when Pennywise dies, he starts crumbling apart, and all the pieces start floating up in the air. In fact, the area around them starts doing the same, and it collapses. The house itself that Pennywise's lair was below also collapses. Which, throughout the film, I kind of wondered if that was also part of Pennywise. And all in all, we never really get an idea of what Pennywise looks like. We don't. I mean, we know his clown form, but we don't really see him for what he truly is. And that's great. I like that. I like that they did that. Or at least didn't do that. Sorry. So, afterwards, they all go back to the creek to kind of think about what happened. And we get, I will say, one of the best moments of the movie is when they all separate again. They still remember everything, but they all received letters. Each person received a letter from Stan. And, which, by the way, I forgot to mention, Eddie died within the cavern, which really sucks, because as they're trying to escape, they weren't able to carry his body out. And they left his body in the cavern, and the whole cavern kind of collapsed over him. So that, I would say, that's a really sad moment, especially when you find out, if you're very perceptive, you find out that apparently Richie had feelings for Eddie. By the end of the episode, he writes or carves 2 initials, kind of how people put R heart N or R or A heart something, as couples. Well, at the end there's a bridge, and he carves, or at least etches deeper, R plus E. So I would have to assume E is Eddie. But oh my gosh, it was a great moment where you have all the actors, the adults and the kids, reading this note, maybe a word or a sentence at a time from Stan. And again, they give more depth to why he did it. He didn't want his friends to die because of any mistakes that he made or would make. So he literally says, I'm taking myself off the board. This isn't much of a suicide note. It's just to explain why I did the things I did. Which, you know what? I like that. I hate the fact that the character died. I wish they would have done something different from the book. But at the same time, at the very least, the character, you know, did show that he cared for his friends. And that unfortunately he felt like he couldn't help them at all as an adult, especially with what happened to him in the previous movie. So, again, giving my rating of 10 out of 10, I love this movie. And, my gosh, I went through a lot of spoilers. Again, this is it. I went through all the stuff that I wanted to talk about. Like, for the spoiler discussion. Because I saw the movie, I enjoyed it. It was a ton of fun to watch. I fucking love this movie. 10 out of 10 for me. And it sucks that it ended. Though I will say there were a couple of moments from the trailer that don't show up in the film. One scene I can think about, or two, when the old lady, at some point when they get to the sewers, the old lady pops up again as a monster and grabs Beverly and drags her down. But there was a moment, the moment where they're under the water and she's like caressing Beverly's face. I didn't see that in the film. And believe me when I say, as soon as I got my drink and popcorn, I didn't get up at all. Because I never want to miss a single moment in the movie. In case something does pop up. And I can do videos like this. All in all, I did not see that clip. There's a point where Pennywise jumps like out of a hole from a ceiling. I didn't see that at all. I felt bad for a couple of the people that died in this film, like the one of the men in the relationship at the beginning. Then you have this little girl with this really. I felt bad. I felt bad for her because she has this birthmark, and like Pennywise, he freaking is messing with her insecurities, saying, you know, if you trust me, I'll blow that birthmark away. And then he does this whole like 1, 2, and then he stops for a second. His face freezes, his eye freaking going to the right, and he's like, you see like this long like thing of drool coming down his mouth, and she takes a second. She's like, you're supposed to say, and before she can finish her sentence, he like opens up his shark teeth and proceeds to bite half her face. Oh, that was so terrible. And then you have again the boy who ends up getting killed inside the funhouse. Oh my gosh. So this was a great film. It really was. And with that being said, I think I've spent enough time talking about this movie as well as spoilers. I think there's definitely more stuff that happens in this film. I didn't want to go too much into it. Just giving my cliff notes about like basically what happens, or basic details. Okay, basic details. And like I mentioned, this was the spoiler section, so you guys have been warned if you're watching like this deep into the video. So, all in all, really good movie. Wish there was more. Unfortunately, it has to end. Thank you guys for watching. Truly appreciate it. If you guys have anything to add, did you like the movie? For those who have watched it, what would you rate it? Let me know in the comments. 10 out of 10 or not? Give your thoughts. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. If you guys can, please leave a like, comment, share, subscribe. At the end of the video, click on the button at the end of the video for gaming content that I've been playing. With that being said, this is Rob of Novakast signing off. Have a good one, and take care. Peace.